Hi, good evening, everyone. We're just going to let the room fill up here for a second where people are still coming in the lobby. Give us 1 second to have everyone get in. While we're waiting, I'll introduce myself. I'll introduce my partner in crime. My name is John Standel. I'm the Vice President of Growth with Boom Learning. I'm a speech pathologist by training. I got my master's in special ed as well. TJ Triola is my partner in crime. TJ's got his master's in special ed as well. And we're going to walk you through the product that we released in 2025, which is an offshoot of Boom Cards called Boom Passport. And in this presentation, we're going to take a look at a lot of the features that are available in Passport that may not be available in your Boom Card subscription, or something that may suit the needs of a district or a school more than an individual account that Boom Cards can serve. I believe the chat, TJ, is the chat window active?
I believe, yes, the chat window is active. So if you have any questions or anything like that, we're going to make it interactive as well. So there will be some questions we'll be throwing your way. So feel free to just to put it in the chat and we'll read them as we go along.
We'll tackle them as fast as possible, but just let us know if anything pops up. So when I joined Boom, Boom Cards exploded during COVID. We're one of the smallest companies with one of the largest following in the special education community. Currently, we have about 1.4 million teachers on our platform, and the materials on our platform have been utilized by students somewhere over 2 billion times. We're a company of less than 33 people. So we have really great penetration in the marketplace, and during COVID, everyone used us during COVID. We hear it constantly of, oh, we used you during COVID and it worked really well. And one of the things we saw when we got out of COVID was the need of teachers to have more content and more consistent content, and getting out of the creation zone. A lot of teachers that I've worked with over the years, they're still creating, they still think they need to create content. And in Boom, when we were during COVID, we had over 500,000 activities in our library. And the whole goal of Boom is we want teachers to stop creating and to start teaching. Um, so that's what this going to be. That's what the focus is going to be tonight, is to show you how you can use Boom Passport to get out of the creation zone you're in and use some of the tools to build better instructional time with your students. Next slide, Teach. So there's really three products that we offer. There's the original Boom Cards, again, started during COVID, and has been a mainstay in the industry since really 2019, 2018. It's an individual subscription, so individual teachers can use it, and it allows them to log in as an individual, access the materials they want to access, purchase individual materials, and work with the kids in that individual format. Boom Passport is a classroom tool that allows teachers to access over 90,000 vetted decks. All the decks that we utilize and within Passport go through a vetting process to make sure that it's the best of the best. So in essence, we grab the really good decks out of the Boom Cards library and put them into a product called Passport. And then the third product that we're working on, and we're having different iterations right now, is the Boom Training Academy. In my experience in working with schools and districts over the years, one of the biggest issues has been getting the right level of support from the publisher to the teachers and the administrators to make a product be successful in the district or classroom. Without a publisher supporting the district, the failure rate of implementation is anywhere from 40 to 60%. So when we talk to districts and we ask them what products they're using, we get a lot of, well, we use this, but not really that well, or we use this, but not really that well. And when we ask them if the company helped them implement that, very often it's no, we got it and they gave us a couple of webinars, but they really didn't help us implement. So we've built Boom Training Academy, which really helps administrators and teachers figure out how to best implement the curriculum into their classrooms or their schools to meet their needs. Next slide, Teach. So as I stated earlier, we have 1.4 million educators on our platform. Boom Passport provides students with engaging and interactive materials. One of the great things about our platform is that we're device agnostic. It doesn't matter how you utilize us. It could be on an iPad, a Chromebook, an iPhone, a smart board, paper pencil. You can utilize the lessons however you want. There's no formatting capabilities that we don't touch because we're truly an app. All of the lessons in Passport, of the 90,000 lessons in Passport, they're customizable and differentiated. You can get in there and modify the materials to meet the student's needs. So no matter where they are on their cognitive journey, you can dial back the materials to meet their needs or bring them up to meet their needs. We've built in accessibility, so we are compliant with the accessibilities requirements that are out there right now. So the decks are accessible for kids that may have visual impairments, auditory impairments, or motoric issues. What this does is it encourages independence. It allows the students to interact with the materials and collect data. In a previous life, I worked with districts and I looked at their IEPs and kind of helped the districts understand why they're struggling with IEPs. And very often it's because the data that the teachers were collecting or weren't collecting wasn't there. So with all of the decks and boom cards and Passport, you can actually collect real-time data of how the kids are interacting, which you'll see in a little bit. We support, as you know, hybrid learning or brick and mortar learning. So if you have kids that are hospital homebound or you have kids that are going to be out for a while, the remote access is phenomenal, as well as if you have kids in the classroom who just need brick and mortar instruction, you have that as well. Administrative controls and oversights are huge. We want our administrators to see what they're doing. So we want to make sure that the administrators can see the district usage, the teacher usage, and really drill in to see the data on how well the tool has been utilized, because we want that transparency. We want to make sure that that utilization is there. At the end of the day, all of this is we want the teachers to teach. We want to save time. We want to give you your time back. I can't tell you how many educators I talked with at CEC last week where they're still on Sunday night sitting on their couch with a glue stick in one hand and a glass of wine in one hand, making content for the next week. And they're just recreating content that's been created over and over and over. Next slide, Teach. So again, super interactive and useful content. We want our kids to have content that is going to be addressing reading, writing, and math, science, and social studies standards, as well as transitional skills. So when you look at a lot of our content, you're going to see that it's not only content specific for where the kids are at their standards level. So if I'm working with a 10th grade math student, I can expose them to 10th grade standards, but have it differentiated down to maybe they're reading at a 2nd grade reading level. We can modify and find content that will meet their needs. If you're working with transition students who are working on with life skills or community-based experiences, you want to have content that looks age respectful. So you can see we have a taking a ride with Uber application up there. You have the ability to say, this looks like what you could be doing soon. Let's talk about how you're going to utilize Uber. All the content gives the students feedback, if it's either through a digital or an auditory cue or a visual cue, so they know if they're getting things right or wrong. Those cues can be turned on and off on the decks as well. So you have the ability to really modify their engagement with the materials. Next slide, Teach. Again, super customizable. I can go into a deck. We call our lessons decks because of the boom cards. I can go into a deck. I can preview that deck. I can hide cards within that deck. So maybe I'm working with a student who they're just going to be identifying 0 through 9. That's really what I want them focused on. But the materials are looking at 0 through 20. I can go and hide anything from 10 up so the kid, that student wouldn't see that, and I can really hone into what I want them focused on. Reading levels are with a lot of our content. You can modify a lot of it. Because of the amount, again, with Boom Passport, you have access to 90,000 decks. So for $299, you get access to a lot of materials. So again, holiday materials, anything that's related to any event coming up, we're going to have it covered. Very often when we go to conferences or we train districts, people always ask us, well, do you have this or do you have that? And I was just in San Antonio a couple weeks ago, and someone said, do you have anything on the Alamo? And I said, gosh, I don't know. And sure enough, I pulled up 5 lessons without even trying very hard on the Alamo. So we have a ton of content at your fingertips. Next slide, Teach. Accessibility. We talked about this. A lot of the decks in Boom have full-blown accessibility built into them. So if you have a student that is hearing impaired and visual impaired, and they may be accessing their computer through a switch interface, our boom cards will support their motoric, visual, or auditory needs. Those can be turned on or off. You can look at what decks have those. There are some decks where it's just not appropriate because the decks are very visually intensive and it won't work. But a lot of our decks do have built-in accessibility features. It's super important for us. If I have a student that may have some motoric issues and they have to scan through their materials, I want to make sure I can find content that works for them. Or if I have a student that needs a screen reader like JAWS or NVIDIA, we want to make sure that alt text is there so the student can auditorily hear what the screen's showing them so they know when to interact with their materials. So many of our decks have the accessibility features turned on. Next slide. This is a really important one for me. I love building student agency. And getting our students to become independent learners and excited by their learning process often gives them a sense of accomplishment that we don't see very often with other programs. Because we're device agnostic and I can assign students materials and say, hey, TJ, when you get home tonight, you're going to do these 5 lessons. Or, hey, Heather, I want to work, you're going to work one-on-one with this lesson. I can take lessons, assign them to the kids, see when they log in, see when they do them. If they're using a Chromebook or if they're using a iPhone or an iPad or the smartboard in the classroom, I can see all that. If they're doing paper pencil, I may have to capture that data independently, but I can still provide them the materials at their need, at their cognitive need level, and support their level of independence for where they're at. I'm our data tools, and what a lot of people don't realize is even if you've been a Boom Card subscriber for 5, 6, 7 years, there are tools in Boom that you are not aware of right now. And TJ is going to take you through a little walkthrough in about 2 minutes here, and he's going to show you some of those higher level tools or the data tools to really show you this is what you're missing out on, and this is how you can use the product very differently than you're using it right now. A lot of our users find a deck they love, they put it into presentation mode, and they use that deck in that presentation mode. That's the 90-10 rule. 90% of our users really only use 10% of the power of the content and the tools that we have. So we're going to make sure in this session and then in our Boom Training Academy that people have access and knowledge of all the other tools that are built into the platform. TJ, next slide, please. Data tracking. Data is king. Without data, we're making guesses on what our students are doing. So with Boom, you have the ability to go in and look at exactly what is the student doing, how are they answering those questions, how fast are they answering those questions. You can look at it longitudinally. So instead of a lot of other programs where you look at it like the beginning of the month and the end of the month, with Boom Cards and Boom Passport, you can look at that data every time the student touches it. And you can look at their response time patterning. So at the top, I can see with the little green and red if they got the answers right or wrong. At the bottom, I can see response times. The longer the response time, the higher cognitive load the student's taking. They're thinking about the answer. They're waiting to answer it for some reason. If you have students that sometimes just answer quickly, that response time is just going to be flat along the bottom. Like they just clicking through the application. They may or may not be getting them right. You're able to see really what they're doing and then hone into it. If I'm working with a student and we're working on lowercase letter ID, for example, and I'm going through their error patterning, I'm like, oh, look at, they're constantly messing up P's and B's. We got to work on that. You can see from their error choices what they did and why, and then go in and assign new content, modify the content, provide some instructional guidance to have them work through that. So the data tracking in Boom, again, it's very underutilized by our teachers, but it's a phenomenal tool to use. So when it's IEP time, you have real live data to show where's the student at and what are we working on. Next slide, Teach. We talked about this before. Our products can be used by anyone, anywhere. It doesn't matter where the student's at. Again, if they're homebound, if they're hospital bound, if they are out for medical reasons, I can even use our Boom remote tools like our Boom Live. Let's say I'm working with TJ in the classroom. We're brick and mortar. TJ is working independently at his desk. I just want to pop into a session to see what he's doing. I can fire up Boom Live, look at his session, Maybe I could do an interactive game with him. So we're doing some turn taking and some question and answering back and forth, but I'm not hovering over him. I'm at my desk working on my computer. He's at his desk working on his computer. It's building independence. It's supporting the students where they're at. We give you a lot of flexibility in how you want to use the materials. So they're just not PDFs or they're just not interactive. You can use them in different formats with the kids. Um, we support whole group instruction, small group instruction, one-on-one instruction. The beauty about Boom Passport is because it's a classroom tool. If I'm the teacher and TJ is my speech pathologist and he comes in, I can say, "Hey, we just worked on this money skills activity." TJ could take those the money skills activity and turn it into a pragmatic, community-based experience of how to use money in a grocery store and how to build communication skills. So there's a lot of ways to really build the in-person and or remote learning with our content. And then next slide, Teach. Really quick, our Boom Training Academy, again, we want you to be successful. We take our success of our teachers and our students very seriously. We pride ourselves on our customer service and our customer success. For that, we have Boom Training Academy. We have a massive training regiment that you can log into for free and figure out, I want to build a Boom card. I want to figure out how to use my data tools better. You can use the Boom Training Academy. We have a phenomenal marketing department with Heather and Tori who build lessons for the teachers on, really quick video snippets that could be on Instagram or TikTok or YouTube on how to do X, Y, or Z with our products. So you can see very quickly how you can engage with them. If that doesn't work, you can email us or call us. We have a customer service team and a sales and marketing team that is there to support you. So that implementation and that support of the teacher, if it's at the individual classroom level, the school level, or the district level, will actually build content and or train you to meet your needs no matter where you are on that continuum of implementation. And then I think I got one more slide, TJ. Administrative controls. Very simply, teachers can see what the students are doing. Administrators can see what the teachers are doing. We want that so we can make sure that if an administrator's buying a product, putting it into a classroom, they can see what's going on and quickly log in to see how healthy is the product and our teachers using it with the fidelity and the rigor that we want them to use. It also allows them to establish delegates. So I may be the SPED director and TJ is in charge of all of my transition teachers. I turn him on as a delegate, and he can then see all the transition teachers that he works with. So it gives the districts a lot of power to really look at the accountability of the teachers and the usage of the product. And I think my last slide is just our goal is we want to make teaching easier. Right now, instruction has become very difficult. Budgets are tight. Classroom tools are being cut back. We are going to keep our pricing of our products very, very, very inexpensive for districts because of where money is not right now. So we want to make sure that we're giving you a product that's inexpensive, that can be used by multiple professionals, that can be used in multiple classroom settings to meet the needs of no matter where the kids are going and what they're doing. And stopping teachers from recreating the wheel. With 90,000 activities in Passport, you're really going to have a open range of what you want. And then I think my last slide jumps to the last slide, TJ, and we'll pull the slide up at the very end. If you need to get a hold of us, skip that slide, TJ. If you need to get a hold of us, our emails are super easy. I'm john@boomlearning.com and TJ's TJ@boomlearning.com. You can also send an email to help or sales at boomlearning.com and someone will get back to you. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it over to TJ. I'm going to have him actually take you into Boom Passport and show you everything that we just talked about at a very surface level, just so you can understand it. If you implement this into your district, most of our district trainings take about 4 hours. So what we're going to try and do is condense a district training down into about 15, 20 minutes. So don't feel like you need to memorize everything. We will be emailing out this presentation, so you'll get a copy of this. And if you go to our website or you go to YouTube, there's about a couple hundred videos of different presentations or different vignettes that you can look at of Boom Passport. And then the questions that are coming in, we'll make sure that we address after at the end when TJ is done talking. Go ahead, TJ.
Yeah. Yeah, I was gonna say, so once again, thank you all so much for coming in. I'm just gonna share my screen over here. Hopefully everybody's able to see it. But once again, thanks for your time tonight. There's really three big things that John and I both heard at CEC last week, as well as just we just hear it just every single day. The biggest one is really just teachers having trouble finding and accessing materials that meet their students' needs, as well as differentiating materials. Teachers are pretty much spending hours outside of their regularly contracted time finding and piecemealing activities together. So within Boom Passport, the really cool part with that is that you're going to have access to over 90,000 different types of activities. Really easy to access simply just by searching and typing exactly what you need. So the cool part here is that basically most of the time, and this is something that got brought up at CEC all the time, is that you are primarily, as a teacher, using five different types of resources. You're pretty much primarily using two different types of curriculum. One could be for ELA, one could be for math. And then on top of that, you're most likely using about 3 to 5 different supplemental resources and materials. And most of those resources and materials are actually probably mostly paid out of your own pocket. So that's what makes it a little bit more challenging too, is number one, you have to learn these new platforms. And then number two, you're actually paying for these platforms in addition to what the school is actually providing you. So the great part with Boom Passport is once again that it's giving you a complete searchable library of about 90,000 activities from over 250 publishers from pre-K all the way up to your transition. So for your 18 and older students, you'll have access to material that way. And you could simply just go in by just clicking store, clicking on decks, and then searching for whatever it is that you need. So if we want activities on, let's just say CVC words. I could simply type in CVC words and boom, I have access to all these different types of activities. And you can see that a lot of them look a little bit different. And the really cool reason for that is because of just our publishers and just how vast our publishing kind of base is with those 250 publishers. So even if I want to go in here and now I want to search for fractions, I could simply go in, type in fractions, and then boom, have different type of fractions. If I want to get even technical and just focus on fractions with halves, I could go in and now find ones that have halves, thirds, quarters, whatever activity I want. It's right there at your fingertips. And the best part with Boom Passport is that all these activities have been vetted by us. So really, there's going to be no hidden surprises as you may kind of find in the school store if the activity isn't necessarily to the quality that you expected when you went to go purchase it. With Boom Passport, we ensure that the quality is there for you to have. So that's the really great part with the store itself. Other ways that you could go about searching for activities is not just simply just by typing whatever it is that you want, which just makes it nice and easy. But on the left-hand side of the page, you could actually see that we have some drop downs. So we can actually go in here now and focus primarily on, hey, I just want to focus in on my pre-K and my kindergartens and maybe first grade. And then now from here, I could just say, okay, let's go focus on our fractions. We still have that up there. And now I could have my fraction work for just those primary grades. I could just clear those grade levels and go down a little bit further, and you could see the variety of subject areas that we offer. So not only are we focused primarily on the four core that you'll have your ELA, your math, your social studies, and your science, but in addition to that, you're going to see that we have occupational therapy tools. We have tools for social emotional learning, for mathematics, and each one of these we could break down even a little bit further. So if I want to go through mathematics, I can now go through elementary, and I could go to operations and algebra. And I could even scale down a little bit further. So I could even say, hey, I just want to go check out my addition and subtraction. And here we go. We have our activities for addition and subtraction, focusing on fractions and halves. So these are all the different types of filters that we have provided. If I get rid of the fractions and half, you can see all the different types of activities. So it really is an amazing tool to have, especially if you're going to be working with your students on primarily certain skill areas that they may be focusing on, as well as just supplementing current curriculum that you may have to use. So no longer, as John said before, you're going to be hanging out with that glue stick and that glass of wine. Yeah, you might want to keep the wine, but you're not going to be going in there and doing that at night anymore. It's just an easier way for you to find really quality activities for anything that you need. The other really great part with Passport is when I scroll down a little bit further, you can now see that we have alignment to the educational standards. So I could go over here and now select my framework. So if I'm working on Common Core standards or the TEKS, if you're based in Texas, I can simply just go on any one of these standards and then drill down further. So I could go into my math standards and now start going into our content. And once again, I could find now standards align materials. So if I want geometry, I could go and find my geometry, and here we go. So now here's our shapes and descriptions of positions of where they are. So now you could drill down a little bit further and make sure that number one, you are aligned to your standards. That's something obviously when you're going through your um, observations with your principals or your directors or whoever's coming into your classroom, even the parents. Parents always want to know, hey, why are you teaching this activity? And is it aligned to the standards? You are providing them access to that alignment of the standards, which many times, if you go to additional resources outside of, let's just say, Boom, or even just on the web itself, they do not have that alignment. Here, we will have that alignment for you. So it's just an easier way to find that content in the core materials itself. So I'm just going to go in and just start typing in a lesson. If I go into fractions, for example, let's go back to here and let's get a little more creative. Let's say I want some fractions on pizza. We all love pizza. And here I could go in. If I like this activity, I could jump right on in simply by clicking. And I could see all the different types of information for this particular activity. If I scroll down a bit, I could see the about the activity, explains what this activity is about. If I want to go and see standards, I could go into standards and now see the standards that this activity is aligned to. I could check out reviews and say, hey, did anybody review this activity? Is it a great activity or is it not? And then you could also see related activities to it. So once again, it's kind of building in that scaffolded for you and just saying, okay, here's what you're working on now. Then you can move on to maybe simple word problems that correlate with fractions, all the way down to division, mystery, multiplication, division, whatever it is that you wanted to focus on. And now if I just go back and click on the activity, I could go in here and preview this activity. And as you can see, it's bold, it's bright, it's colorful, it's engaging for the students. And that's what we want. We have it so that really the activities itself focus on that student engagement. Kids are excited to want to come to the board and look at the materials and interact with Boom cards. So that's one of the best part is we're actually seeing it in a lot of the special education classrooms as a reinforcer, where not only, hey, we focus on this on our curriculum aspect, and now we're going to go and practice those materials, maybe just one-on-one independent practice, whole group, small group, as John mentioned before. We could now go to the board, we could go here and have our students come up and engage with the activity itself. And we could go, sorry. And I could go here, select my answer, and boom, I get it right. So you're going to have those auditory sounds to indicate correct and incorrect answers. Everything in the settings could always be changed. As John said, differentiation, modifications always there for you to focus in on. And the best part too is that when these activities are assigned to the students, we capture data on everything. And I'm going to show you what that looks like. But the really cool part is you could see the fun, you could see the engagement. We could work on pizza not only in math with fractions, but even if we want to go into pizza and let's just say we're working on maybe some articulation. Here we go. We have pizza, build a pizza with S. And we have a bunch of different types of activities that we could focus on. So right now we have it for speech, we have it for math, we could have it for science, we go into the chemistry of what happens to the cheese, it'll melt, discuss melting process. So there's a lot of different ways that you go in and utilize these activities to kind of stay consistent with whatever the theme is for the activity that you want, as well as making sure that it's fun, engaging, and repetitive, especially for those special education population students that need that constant repetition throughout the materials. So that's the store itself. And just wanted to highlight something that in the store is if there is, let's just say, an activity that you really enjoy in any one of the ones that we have. So if I go in here and we pull up a cooking activity, and I absolutely love this cooking activity, I could always go in and click on the author and the publisher and go and see what other activities they have. So you don't even really have to kind of search most of the time. It's just if you have an activity and a publisher that you really enjoy, you could add them as your favorite and have access to everything that they created, which is really, really cool. Once again, streamlining everything. All right, now we're going to go into, let's just say, what do we do from here now? We like an activity, we want to go and assign it to our students, and we want to get that data and that reporting. So if I just go back to that pizza activity, for example, and I'm just going to go to fractions, I'm going to go and pull up an activity. We'll just say this fraction center is math right over here. If I go through this activity and I absolutely love this activity and want to send it to my students, all I simply need to do is just add to the library. And you can see that button right over here. If I wanted to just do it mainly from the card itself, you could see you have those green buttons on those cards. That would be a green plus button. And once I click on that button, I could simply add it to my library. And what it does is it just takes that activity, puts it right into my library, and I could see it first thing here. So if I go to library, I can see my Boom Passport, and I can see the activity that we just added, which is super cool, super easy. Now, from here is where you're going to be able to assign it to your students. So I'm just going to just backtrack a little bit for a second. But what you're going to see on the top left button is our classes. So within your classes, you're going to be able to set up, let's just look at your classes as groupings, for example. So when we go and we set up a classroom, and let's just say that we're creating a new classroom together. If I click on that classroom, it's simply going to create the name for that class. I could name it whatever I want. I could change it. And for the students, adding the students is super easy process. I could simply just type in Steve. I could put Heather on here. John, and you could see the data that we're collecting on your students is simply just first names. It could be nicknames, ID numbers, whatever it is that you want to remember for your population. So we're not going in there. We're not collecting first names, last names, school IDs, addresses. And that's super important, especially for the districts that you're in, because a lot of the data privacy agreements that really districts have really look at what information we're collecting. And you can see that we're collecting very minimal information for our students. So it's an easy process for us to get into the school district that way. I simply created that password and boom, our students are in the system. So it's a very easy process. Now, if I want to go into my library and take that activity, let's just say we'll take this math activity. I could go to actions, and over here is some of the information that John mentioned before. If I wanted to go into prep mode. So this is how I could take a current activity that's already in my library and modify it further for my students. So I could go into prep mode over here. And let's just say, you know what? In prep mode, I just want to focus on, let's just say halves and thirds. I could look at the general overview of this activity and say, you know what, this is a little bit challenging for my students now. I'm going to hide that. So what's going to do is it's going to hide that card. So now when the students go and engage with this activity, they're not going to see anything that's more challenging than halves and thirds. And now I could continue to do that. If I scroll through, I could see, okay, here's quarters. I'm going to hide this as well. So here's how you would go and modify it. So this way, now we could focus on our halves, we could focus on our thirds. And then now, as we progress throughout the week or progress throughout the month, we could go and unhide these cards. And now it'll be visible to our students now that we've learned these skills. So that's the really cool part that you could go ahead and differentiate with these activities. Other things you could do is presentation mode. That's simply if you're going to go in there and present it to the entire class. Let's just say you're on the smart board. Hit up presentation mode, and here you go, and you have access to like we did before. And then some of the other features that we have as well is the assign. So once again, if we're doing independent practice, small group assignments, I could go and now I could assign it to those groups of students in my classroom. So as you can see, I set up mine to have different types of reading level groups. I could have level 3 reading group, level 2, and the same with my math group. So for this one, I'm going to set it to my level 2. And now all my students that are associated in the level 2 math group will have access to this material. The other options that you have as well, and I know a question got brought up about this, was the Boom Live. This is what John alluded to before, which is really cool and allows you as the teacher to peek in on the student. So I can set up a Boom Live session and now see when that student's logged into their session and completing that activity, me as the teacher could actually see what that student's doing. And I could actually go and then kind of highlight areas and say, you know what? Hey, take a little highlighter. You might want to focus on this area over here of the activity. This way, it's not, once again, it's not the teacher being right on top of that student. It's kind of teaching from a distance and allowing that student a little bit more freedom to go in and complete that assignment. Hyperlink plays. So these are some of the other cool features that we have too. We have fast pins and hyperlink plays. Fast pins is just to say, hey, you know what? I'm going to send this to a student. I don't need to worry about the data at the moment, but I could actually just take this fast pin right over here, create for the student, send it to that student, and that student could easily access that material. And so if I just go, sorry, going back in there, hyperlink link. Well, that'll be a link. So I know somebody mentioned something about Canva. So if you go and you take the hyperlink link, hyperplay link, sorry, and you put it into the Canva, that student will be able to access the material through there. So this way, it ensures that the student will actually go in and log in through Canva or through Boom, and then you're going to capture the data on that assignment itself. This is one of the things that a lot of teachers do not know about, but every single activity that we have within Boom can be printed off. So if your student really requires that tangible material, that printed off material, you could go ahead and you could print off this activity, which is really cool to do. So, for example, if I want to go in here, I could print this out. I could laminate it, take a dry erase marker, have the students answer it on dry erase marker, wipe it off at the end, and continue to use that. So you could always have those options available. Lastly, some of the other things you have is you could view reports on the activity. And you could also contact the author. Let's just say if you did see some type of error, or if you really like the author's style, and say, you know what, I really like what you do with the pizza with the fractions. Let's just say, can you do another activity with maybe just counting the pizza pies? This way, it encourages the publishers to go in there, create more materials that are, that you need. That's one of the powerful tools of Boom Passport is that you will have access really to 250 publishers. So if there's materials that you cannot find, and I know John said, let's just say for the Alamo, for example, if there's something that's so specific, maybe, and it's a little bit challenging to find, maybe the history of Hawaii, for example. If we don't have it in our library, which we probably might have something, there you go. You could always go in there and contact the publishers, and we could go and turn our publishing team to create activities for you. And that's a really cool tool that a lot of publishers do not give you, permission to do. So that's something that we pride ourselves on is that we're always going to have materials for you. We want to simplify your process. We want you to start teaching, as John alluded to before. And then just some of the quick things I just wanted to show you is the reporting tool. Obviously, if we're going to be going and we're going to be assigning activities, we want to know what the reports are. We want to know how our students are currently doing with those activities. So if I just go to the counting numbers 1 through 10, I could actually look at my class and see exactly how my students are progressing. I could see their best score, I could see their first score, I could see their last score. The coolest part about this is I could actually go in here and get even a little bit more information. I could see their average. And if I click on the plays, I could see every single time now that this student has completed this assignment. So think of it as an IEP. If I want to go know what my students' present level of performances are with counting 1 to 10, how that student's progressing, I could go into any one of these activities, and each one of these bars indicate a time that that student completed that activity. I could click right over here and I could see exactly what that student got correct, incorrect, and the response time. So if I want to see what that student got incorrect, I simply just click on that X and I could say, okay, they were having difficulty counting to 5. So they thought it was 6, they're having difficulties there. As John mentioned earlier, they could be confusing their 9s and their 6s. This will give you the information to clearly identify that and then use that now to teach that specific skill. And if I simply just go over any one of these times too, I could actually see the response rate in seconds and say, okay, my student right now answered this question wrong, and they only worked on it for 2 seconds. Okay, that's interesting because when I see now the student answered the questions with 4 seconds, I could see that student was able to get those questions correct. So once again, those patterns, you're going to be able to specifically see those patterns. And the cool part too, with everything that you see, everything could be exported into a nice CSV file. So if you are going into an IEP meeting, you have that information with you. You could download that, bring that in there, and you are an absolute rock star to that parent because you have everything that you need to back up your IEP goals for moving forward. And simply with the reports as well, if I ever wanted to go do a full class report and see how everybody's doing and how everybody's progressing, once again, you'll have that option as well. So really what really Boom provides and Boom Passport specifically is going to save you hours of time with preparation and planning. You're going to have that easily accessible through that store and the decks and just simply have access to whatever it is that you need. The second thing is that data reporting. That's going to be huge. That's going to save you thousands of hours, I'll say. But no, it's a great tool to have. Everything is clearly identified as you saw in the graphs itself. It's presented accessibly well for the parents to even read on their own. So once you print out those reports, you have it right there for the parents. They could clearly see it. The last thing I just want to allude to quickly, gets brought up a lot, is that you will have access to Studio, which allows you to go and create your own activities. So let's just say for a student, you want to go in there and maybe get a little bit more specific for a student. Let's say we're working with a transition 18-year-old student on, basics. Let's just say life skills, washing hands. What you could simply do is you could create an activity. It's really easy to do. You simply just drag and drop. It's kind of like an interactive PowerPoint. It's say how to, wash your hands, and you could go from there. Now, just think about everything you could do. If I wanted to add video, I could go and add a video, drop a URL about washing their hands, have that ready to play, then go to the next slide and now start creating multiple choice. What's the first thing I do to wash my hands? So you could go here and start creating your own interactive materials for your students to use. Super specific for them. So this way you can really customize it. And when you go ahead and you create these activities, a couple different things. The one thing you could do is actually you could create it and then you could actually add it so everybody within your account could see it. So think about it like in the lines of, let's just say, something that we do on a daily basis, like a morning meeting activity. If you go into the studio and you create that interactive morning meeting activity, now you could share it with everybody within your account. And you could simply find that in your school library, which will be right over here. Or you could simply just share it directly with certain teachers if you ever wanted to do it that way. So if you just want to go and share it with your colleague down the hall, you could certainly do it that way. But it's a really cool process to really get more specific and in tune with which your students truly need and differentiate anything that you need for them as well. All right, that was a lot of speaking. Does anybody have any questions? I know I see some were coming in.
Yeah, one of the things that I want to, why TJ's looking up the webinar chats, um, with the data tool that you saw, TJ showed the student, and it actually looked like they were doing worse. They were had hundreds and went backwards. You have the ability to modify that's just a start date and an end date that you were seeing on that one screen. So don't look at that as like, oh, the student did worse. They actually didn't. TJ, I'll read you the questions at the panel
Yeah.
that some of them I'm trying to lump. So there's a lot in here, everyone, so we're trying to lump them together. Um, it's 200. Someone asked the cost and how it can be used. If you have Boom Passport, if you have Boom cards right now and your district buys you Boom Passport, any Boom cards that you've purchased out of your own money or the school's money stays within your account. Um, you don't lose those. You just get access to the 90,000. So let's say for the 26-27 school year, your district buys you Boom Passport, you get access to the 90,000 decks. You bring in, 15,000 decks that you absolutely love. But before you started that, you had 800 decks of Boom cards that you bought from COVID. You keep those. So if the school doesn't renew your subscription for the 27-28 school year, you still have those 800 decks that you previously had with your premium account.
Yep. And as you can
Um,
see, it's simply right in the library itself. You could see purchased, so you'll always have that folder with you. And then
yep.
you can passport. So it's right there.
Your passport. Yep. TJ, can you talk about single student sign-on with or uploading student for rostering with Canvas or OneRoster or ClassLink or
Yeah. Yeah,
ClassLink?
absolutely. And we work for everything. So if you go to settings above, if you go into my settings, you're going to see down below, you're going to see connect with, and then here will be your options. So what you'll just simply do is either select Clever, ClassLink, Microsoft, Google for single sign-on. You could select any one of those options and it'll walk you through it. Um, if I click right here, for example, I would simply go and log in through my Clever account. Unfortunately, I do not have one, so I cannot access it. But same thing, it's going to go through your ClassLink. You could go ahead, sign in that way. It may require you to sign out of Boom once, and then once you go to sign back
Yep.
in, it'll allow you to go and use the single sign-on.
You may, so just so everyone's aware, for rostering, you may have to involve your district's IT team. They may have to talk to our team if there's something that we need to change in our back end. But it's pretty straightforward for the most part. Um, there's a question about Boom Live. Boom Live can be used via Zoom for students who you're working with remotely. Absolutely, that's the rationale behind it. Um, Music activities. There are, and I wish I was joking with this. There are, Paige, can you go to Passport right now and just type in music. Just type in music. If you are a music teacher or providing music therapy, there are, I haven't count them. They're anywhere to 1,000 plus probably lessons that are going to be musically driven. And or if you just type in music, you may get sounds because they may have tagged it with sounds. So there are a lot of content with music and sound, absolutely, which a lot of teachers use. Part of the beauty of rec time in classrooms is I like kids to explore and do different things and not just go play the same game. So giving them different things to do, if it's, music and math very tightly related,
Animals in this deck.
giving
To
them the
what?
ability to go and find some different things they want to work with. So we have a ton of music content. Um, Someone asked, can you show how decks can be modified for special education students? Deaf, visually impaired, large print, modifying decks with black backgrounds. If the deck is, so I don't want to get into this because it can get very deep very quickly. If the decks that are published as is. So if you're working with a student and let's say they need a 48 black font on a goldenrod background. I don't know if we have any decks like that or not. I just don't know off the top of my head. Um, you cannot modify current decks to that level of modification just because of the way the decks are laid out. You can, however, using Boom Studio, go and create decks that would meet that student's needs. So there's a lot of features. And if you create those decks in Studio, and save them to your school library. Anyone else within your district that has access to Passport can also access that deck. So communication boards, content for kids that may need that is going to be available for everyone. And if you want a deeper dive on that, feel free to reach out to us so we can get into more specifics exactly what you're looking for. Um, the other thing that TJ mentioned that I love to reinforce, if there's something that you need built, like let's say one of you are from Chicago, and in Chicago the subway isn't called the subway, it's the L. It's an elevated train, they call it the L. Um, Maybe you want a lesson to have the students learn on how to use and how to function using the L and not the subway. That's something that we can go back to our publisher network and say, can someone create a subway activity, a money skills activity, a communication activity, a whatever activity, an algebraic activity using the Chicago L and have that built for you as well. Um, we started this conversation. I want teachers to start teaching and stop creating. A lot of you have great ideas, but you don't have time to create. Bring us those ideas. If it's great, we'll build it for you. We'll put it into the library so you have it at your fingertips. There's another question. Is there a limit on the number of students that it can be added to a teacher's roster? This is where it gets interesting. So right now, TJ has classes up. And with Boom Passport, you can have up to 17 classes. I want you to think of that word differently. Think of groupings. Don't think of classes. So in my classroom, I can group my kids into 17 different groupings. So my high reading group, TJ is actually showing you my level 3 kids, my level 2 kids, my level 1 kids, my one-on-one students, my visually impaired students. You can create all these different groupings of kids, and then you can have up to 125, I think the new number is. Is that right, TJ?
I believe so, yes.
125 kids in your main class. The reason that number is so high is because speech pathologists in Florida don't have caseload limits. So we just said, all right, we're going to make it 125. We don't want to put limits on that. When you really get into Boom Passport, one of the things that we pride ourselves on is we don't put guardrails on to your instructional practices. Because as soon as we put guardrails on, there's going to be, I have 126 kids, or I have 58 kids and I need more, or something like that. We want to make it very seamless for you so you can use it effectively. Um, there's another question here. I have a student who loves to choose the wrong answer, shockingly, to hear the sound of the wrong answer. You can actually go into the settings and turn the sound on and off. So you have the ability to go and shut the sounds off, the feedback's now gone. They can still see the visual feedback, they got it right, but the ding or the whoops, our ding is correct, our whoops is incorrect. You can shut those off. So now they have to focus on if it's green or if it's red. Or you can shut that off as well and they can just see how they're doing. So again, it's that 90-10 rule. 90% of the people are only using 10% of the power of Boom Passport because they just don't know all the features that are at their fingertips. That is why we strongly encourage implementation sessions with our district partners, onboarding sessions. I'll be in California for a week working with districts, onboarding them. Um, if it's a large district, if you are buying 50 or 100 classrooms, that that on-person onboarding is free. The reason we like to do that is so these questions that you're throwing at us, we can tackle with the whole team of teachers to say, here's how you could do it. And we build that teacher's experience live while we're there. We can also provide web-based onboarding as well. I'm just going through my list to see what else I can see. I think those are all of them encapsulated. I'm not seeing any other new ones. Um, we have about 8 minutes left. Um, I'm just going to give you a quick overview of everything that we've talked about. This is a classroom-based tool. It's $299 per teacher to use. Um, it's very open-ended. You saw the amount of content that you have at your fingertips. You saw that even if I am, in a situation where I might be teaching a 10th grade student, I can still find grade appropriate, standards appropriate, age respectful content that will meet them where they're at. So I may be working with a student who's in the 10th grade. We're working on fractions, but they are really at the fractions at that pre-primer level. I can find content that will meet their needs. Um, can it be bought by only, it can be bought by only one teacher in the school. However, it is based on that teacher's class list. You cannot use it with multiple educators outside of that classroom for our terms and conditions. We prefer that multiple teachers in the school have access just because a lot of our kids are seen by multiple teachers within a school. So usually what we see is if it's a school, if I'm working for Roosevelt Elementary and there's um, you know, 3 or 4 teachers that could use it. We're asking the school, let's make sure that you're giving teachers access to as much as possible. There are instances where it's an individual teacher who's in a very small rural school who just needs one classroom. We'll absolutely work with them. That's not an issue. Um, we talked about the content. We talked about Boom Studio. Um, If there's content you need created, let us know. Reach out to us. Feel free to email Heather at heather@boomlearning.com. She works with all of our publishers. If our publishers don't create it, we'll actually create it in-house for you if it's a great idea. So if someone comes up to us, we had a teacher, history teacher came and said, it'd be great if you guys could do something about the midterm elections and how that could impact us come this fall and what that might look like. We're looking at how we can build different lessons around that as well. As technology changes, we are building more and more content for the transition level student. So you're going to see much more age respectful, higher level content for transition-based students from late elementary through age 22 and up. The subscription is an annual subscription, just like the current Boom cards. Um, Someone actually did the math. I don't know who in the company. If you were to buy all 90,000 lessons in Boom, it's over $100,000 worth of content. Obviously, you're not going to use $100,000 worth of content, but just having that buying power behind you just really gives you some great content at your fingertips, and that we vet the content, meaning we actually put eyes on the content. You will not find, because of the way we do it, content that's inappropriate. If any of you are teacher pay teacher subscribers as well, they have had some serious issues with being hacked by inappropriate websites, putting inappropriate content on their website. We are extremely locked down, and we make sure that our teachers have access to the best content, and that districts don't have to worry about inappropriate content popping up. Um, that is all that we have for you tonight. If you have specific questions you want to reach out, again, feel free to email us at John at Boom Learning, TJ at Boom Learning, or Heather at Boom Learning. We'd be more than happy to hop on calls, talk to people. If you need a demo for your district, if you're considering it for your district and you're like, hey, we have to do a trial of this, we can also set you up with a 30-day trial. That is kind of a first come, first serve because we have a lot of districts in it right now. So we kind of have to give districts access based upon their need and what they're looking at buying. We know it's budget season right now. So if you're looking at getting this and you need a quote, reach out and we can have one of our salespeople build you a quote as well. And if you have any other questions, we're here for you. TJ, any final comments from you?
No, I was gonna say I just want to thank you guys all again for coming out. I think I posted something in the chat. Do you get professional development hours for these webinars, John?
Not for these webinars, no. Contact hours, we don't for these webinars because this is more of a product overview. Um, there are some webinars that Heather does that are more instructionally driven, that aren't product driven, that we would give a certificate for. And then you will get a video of this tomorrow. I think we'll be sending them out once Zoom sends us the final video. Anything else, Tej?
No, yeah, and just the last thing I just want to say, if you currently are a Boom Cards user, one of the biggest, especially the CEC comments that got brought back to us, one of the biggest upgrades with switching over to, let's just say Passport, for example, is the collaboration tool. So let's just say, for example, if I go into any one of these activities, I could now go and just copy this link, and as long as that colleague of mine has Boom Passport, I could shoot that link right over to them. It'll open up that lesson, opens up that collaboration tool. So right now they could go in and see exactly what you're working on with your students. Let's just say if you're doing the ELA teaching and their math, you can say, hey, listen, here's a great bundle that they have that incorporates ELA and math together. Let's go. This is what I'm going to be working on with my students for this particular week. Let's go and kind of collaborate together. So that's one of the biggest feedbacks that we've received with Passport is just that collaboration tool between the different subject area teachers.
And the student data sharing, so you can actually go
Absolutely.
in. Yeah, I can go in and see what TJ did with student A. I can go in and look at the same time and see what I'm doing from a speech therapy standpoint. So the flexibility of the product is absolutely amazing. Just like any other product, it just takes time to learn. And that's why we really support with our webinars, our Boom Training Academy, and our social media, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube channels. With that, I want to thank everyone. I know these webinars are always, you're like, it's the end of the day. You want to get home, you want to make dinner, you got a million other things to do. Thank you guys. Feel free to reach out. We don't have any shows coming up in the near future. I will be in California in May training. So if you're in the LA Valley area and you want me to swing by your district, feel free. TJ is in the West Palm, Southern Florida area. So if you're in Florida and you need any help, he's on the ground for you there. I actually live outside of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. If any of you guys are from MPS or Chicago, feel free to reach out. We'd be happy to help you live and in person. Heather's also in Chicago. So if you want to get our premier publisher trainer, who's also a skilled teacher that has years of experience with students with autism, she's in the Chicagoland area. So feel free to reach out. And thank you for your time, everyone.